Hello, I'm Random Face, and welcome to Chapter 2 of Brothers. Before we get started, this is as far as I've written to this point. I actually wrote a little bit farther, but then, I was unhappy with a bunch of things, and I just sat down and started rewriting it, and I only rewrote up to Chapter 2. So, after this point, I won't come back and read more of it until I've written more. But I will rewrite more because I like doing this. And it's kind of awesome. Plus, I did say that last week I was going to do this and I didn't. So this week, 2 videos. Anyway, let's get started. Chapter 2. Urge to leave. She reaches the car and looks through the inside. Oh God, it's John's. Onlookers are already calling 911. A few have even begun to come out to help the mother look for anything in the wreckage. Personal effects, signs of life, bodies. They find a pair of glasses on the ground and a few spatters of blood. The mother quickly runs over and grabs the broken glasses. She immediately breaks down and cries. Oh God, it's Will's. She's breathing heavily, tears falling freely from her face. Partway down the stairwell, Serenity stops and sits on a step, face in her hands. I shouldn't have said those things. I know I shouldn't have, but it's all my fault anyways. They were shooting at me. Why did he have to get in the way? Now he's in a hospital bed and the doctor won't let me stay in the room. She leans against the side of the stairwell and winces as the wall presses against a scratch on her head. She leans away and presses her hand against the wound. One of the bullets must have grazed me. She pulls her hand away and looks at it. No blood. Must have scabbed over by now. Serenity wipes the tears from her face with her unbloodied hand before standing back up. Her feet begin to carry her down the stairs before she looks back and stops. Blood. Serenity rushes back and kneels next to an individual. Hey, are you awake? Unresponsive. What do I do? She begins to hyperventilate, then stops and clutches her head. It's all right. It's all right. I can get help. What would Lynn do? She remembers how Reese and Lynn had handled coming across someone unconscious on the street a few days ago. Or was it a few weeks? Doesn't matter. She tries to recall what they did. First, they called for help. She moves to knock on the hospital room door, then stops. He's watching Reese. I shouldn't bother him. So instead, she calls out for a doctor and knocks on a few doors, but no response. She reaches her hand into her pocket only for it to meet empty air. I left my phone at home. She stops and looks back down at the individual. He's all alone. What did they do next? She lowers a finger towards his nose, then moves her finger to his throat. He's breathing, and he has a pulse. He doesn't appear to be in any danger. She leans back against the wall. What was I supposed to do now? I could go and get him some help, but isn't it dangerous to leave him alone? She looks back at him, then begins applying pressure to his wound. The bleeding slows down. What do I do? What can I do? What? Hey, Seren! Serenity glanced towards the stairwell to see a familiar shock of red hair coming up the stairs. Lynn! Serenity waves wildly with one arm while maintaining pressure with her other arm. She watches as Lynn walks over and stops, then points at the unconscious figure. That looks bad. Should I go grab some help? Yes. Thank you. Serenity is practically sobbing as she bobs her head up and down excitedly. She watches as Lynn gives a small wave and walks away to get help. See you in a bit. Lynn partially heads down the stairwell and stops at a nearby window before checking the time on her phone. 7:55. She glances out the window and watches as several nearby buildings turn the lights off. Nearby pedestrians run into the hospital, and a lone car pulls onto the side of the road. Despite any facial details being blurred by glass and distance, she can still see differences between the pedestrians and the driver of the car. The pedestrians that had run in had seemed scared, but aside from that, there was nothing special about them. Just some generic full clothing to protect against a dropping temperature. The driver, though, is wearing ill-fitted clothing, too small for his size. Lynn watches the driver clutch his face before she turns away and walks back up the stairs to get another glance at the fallen figure. He doesn't appear to be bleeding anymore, but that isn't what's important here. She keeps watching, unbeknownst to Serenity, and waits. A minute passes, 2, 3, and then a few more. Finally, Lynn checks her phone clock. 8:01. No changes. She sighs. The things I do because Seren's too trusting. Lynn heads back down and spares a quick glance out the window to affirm her suspicions. There's the driver again, adjusting her perfectly fitted clothes. She continues to walk down the stairs as she hears a car driving away. Several flights of stairs later, Lynn still can't find anybody around. If I hadn't seen that receptionist when I came in, I would think this hospital was abandoned. Every floor she passes lay empty. No doctors, no patients, and sometimes not even any room numbers. Lynn reaches the lobby and looks around. Didn't a few people walk in here earlier? She checks the front door, the bathrooms, even the security desk. Not just the pedestrians, but nobody else is around at all. She checks one more time outside the front door before going back in. As soon as she steps back inside, though, she spots the receptionist. Hey, can you send some help? There's somebody collapsed upstairs. Hello and welcome to Foundation City Hospital. How may I help you? Lynn freezes. A shock passes through her. She gets a hold of herself and then she continues. I need some help. Somebody's collapsed. Where are they? He's upstairs on the 4th floor. I'll send some people to get him. They'll be out the front door in a few seconds. A pit forms in Lynn's stomach. A shock passes through that pit into the rest of her body. There's something wrong. He's not out the front. This isn't how this is supposed to go. She turns and sees a group of orderlies passing through the front door. I recognize them. She stares, completely disregarding courtesy in an attempt to identify them. Why can't I make out their faces? Then, as they walk past her and out the door, she recognizes them. That's her. The car driver. And behind her are the pedestrians. She turns back to the receptionist, only for the receptionist to greet her again. Hello, and welcome to Foundation City Hospital. How may I help you? Then stops. I need help. Please help. You have to help. She breathes. You're not going to do anything, are you? There's an unidentified man collapsed in your hospital and nobody's going to help him. She thinks over her options. Find help. Identify the guy or walk away. She concocts a plan. I'm currently visiting. May I sign in? Sure, just sign right here. The receptionist turns around to grab the visitors list, and Lynn quickly leans over the desk and grabs the patient list. I shouldn't be doing this. The receptionist turns around with the visitor list, and Lynn snatches it before backing away a few steps from the desk. She then looks up at the receptionist and is startled. She's not looking. She's not even paying any attention. Lynn only hesitates a little longer before flipping through all of the pages of both lists. She sees her own name, and Serenity's on the visitors list, and Reese is on the patient list. But aside from that, they're all blank. She looks back at the receptionist who's staring at the computer. She's not even moving her fingers or head. Lynn walks back cautiously and places the two lists on the receptionist's desk. No reaction. She moves to wave her hand in front of the receptionist's face and stops. She turns away and holds in a wave of vomit. Am I hallucinating? I can't. She turns back to look at the receptionist's face. Then runs up the stairs, passing empty hall after empty hall. Anybody at all, anybody tell me I'm just crazy, please. She begins turning down halls at random, looking for anybody in the hospital who can help. I'm just looking for help for that unconscious dude upstairs. Hall after hall, room after room, and stairwell after stairwell, there isn't a single person in sight. That is, until she reaches the floor where Serenity is. She looks down the hall and sees Serenity sitting on the floor next to the fallen figure. There are a few doctors and nurses walking around, as befitting a quiet hospital late at night. However, Serenity is staring horridly at each doctor or nurse that passes by. Something's wrong. A doctor passes by a little closer, and Serenity draws her legs in and folds her arms around them. She seems to shudder a little bit. What's going on? Lynn rushes over to Serenity. Serenity, what's wrong? Their faces... I never noticed. Lynn slowly turns around and stops. No, I shouldn't. She looks away and closes her eyes. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing here that can't be explained. She breathes. I'm just freaking out for no reason. She looks down at the fallen figure. He needs help, and I'll take him to go get help. She stops. What about Serenity? The door to Reese's room opens, starting both Serenity and Lynn. A doctor walks out and gives them both a curt nod. Serenity, you can come back in now. Serenity slowly gets up and stares even more intently at this doctor than she had at any of the other staff. Words tumble out of her mouth, a habitual response given by anybody who's just had a loved one go through the hospital's timed checks. However, hers is mumbled as an afterthought, unlike anybody else. What's the verdict? Not a shift, just like you said. Serenity nods briefly before turning back to Lynn. The doctor looks normal. I wasn't expecting that. She pauses. Do you want to see Reese? Lynn glances at the fallen figure and back at the doctor. Doesn't he see him? She looks back at Serenity and silently shakes her head. I don't want to be rude, but I want to be anywhere but here right now. Before she could say anything else, another staff member walks by and Serenity slowly backs into the hospital room. I'll see you later. The door closes and Lynn turns back around to the doctor. Hey, could you help this guy? The doctor takes a quick look at where Lynn is gesturing and immediately gets a puzzled look on his face. Who are you referring to? Lynn freezes. No, that doesn't. She tries to move, but it's like her body's been filled with lead. He's there. I can see him. A dull pounding fills her head as numbness spreads through her limbs. I'm getting so tired. Are you all right? Words fill her ears in a dull tone. I'm fine. Feeling slowly returns to her limbs. There's nothing wrong. Everything's wrong, but getting better. I can just... Lynn regains a grasp of her body. She looks the doctor directly in his face. Thank goodness he actually has a face. I'm fine. I just need to go home and get some rest. All right, take care. She heads down the hallway and stops partially down the stairs before glancing back. The things I do to help those around me. She heads back up and picks up the person on the floor. He's not going to get any help here. She begins walking off. Wow, he's heavy. She begins trudging off. Wow, that's a lot of stairs. She finds an elevator and waits for it. And it's not even responding. Is there even an elevator in this building? She begins taking the stairs, one step at a time. Past the empty hallways, past the unlit rooms, past the night-filled windows, into the lobby, and to her car. Lynn takes the guy and places him in her back seat. I didn't think I'd be one of those people. Figures it wouldn't even be with a proper shift. She drives off to her home. Probably best he isn't one. Okay. And that is chapter 2 of Brothers. Just so you know, this is a story I am still writing. So if you have any suggestions for what story beats you want to know, what mysteries you want me to explore, or rather, any suggestions for how I can write better, please leave it in the comments section. Thank you so much for watching, and please remember to always be awesome, always be kind, and always be random. See ya.